Go ahead and let everybody in now. Hello, everybody. Everyone should be logging into the Zoom now. I'm going to make sure that we can get everybody in. There were about 47 of you guys registered today. So, and I see you guys are all jumping on now. Give me a minute to get everybody in. Everyone's video and audio will remain off. We appreciate that. Make sure I get you in here. And just so you guys know, today's webinar will be recorded, so you don't particularly need to take any notes. And we'll have a few slides that we're going to go through. So you'll get all of those slides and all of the imagery, the decks that we're going to use today sent to you. So like I said, no need for taking any notes because you will get them emailed and you'll have this recording as well. So we're going to give it a few more minutes. There's still people jumping in. I'm going to just make sure they get into the Zoom. We'll give it one more minute and we'll get going. More signing in. Hopefully everyone will get signed in here in the next minute or so. But if not, that's okay. Okay, it is 11:03. We'll get going. If anyone else starts to sign in, I'll make sure to get them in there. Like I said, you don't need to write down any notes today because we're going to record this webinar. All of the decks that we're going to use today as well will be sent to you after today. So you, like I said, you can just tune in, try to listen as close as you can. Any questions that you have, just go ahead and drop them in the chat and we'll try to get to them at the end of the presentation. We have 90 minutes open today, so we got plenty of time. So I'll go ahead and introduce myself. Hopefully you guys have kind of seen some of the background for me and Mr. Tyler. My name is James Sackey. I'm a fractional CMO here in Dallas. I've spent a lot of time here recently in a nonprofit space, and I have been managing marketing campaigns for 6 or 7 years now. And some of that time I didn't even know that I was managing marketing campaigns. It just kind of happened. But I focus on clients that are doing $4 million or more in annual revenue primarily. They have typically encountered a inflection point in their business, some kind of material change, like they have new leadership or management, or they have a new product or new service that they're now offering, or they have some kind of capital event like an acquisition or maybe a merger or something like that. That's kind of the best time to engage me. I focus on retention, content, and strategy, and building marketing teams for my clients so that they can have an actual marketing department for them. So that's a little bit around me. I'll turn it over to Tyler. He can introduce himself while I let some of these people in.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. My name is Tyler Riddell. I am also a fractional CMO or Chief Marketing Officer. About have about 8 years of marketing experience, which is kind of crazy now, being that many years out of my undergrad and grad work. But yeah, 8 years of experience. I've held manager, marketing and communication positions, director of marketing positions for different companies like heating, ventilation, air conditioning, SaaS companies, nonprofits. So I really tried to gain as much experience as possible over these past several years. I target now under 1 million. I really like to work with social enterprises, startups, and small businesses, maybe some that are just starting, and really help them grow in their marketing space. And so that's kind of where I'm at. And I'm so excited to dive into some of these strategies today.
Awesome.
Okay, awesome. We're getting some more.
Yeah, I see it coming in here. That's pretty awesome. I'll try to keep tabs on that. Um,
Multitasking.
all right,
See how well you do, James.
let's see. We'll see. Hopefully it'll work out. All right, let me close this down here and see if I can't get my screen share going. Okay. Hopefully you guys can see that. Tyler, are you able to see that?
Yes, it just pulled up.
Beautiful. Okay. So just bear with me here. So, okay. What is marketing about? This is really my philosophy, my approach on marketing. Um, Marketing is about two things in particular that you can see here before you: how you build relationships and how you position, right? A lot of people get the wrong connotation when it comes to marketing. They think it's all about ads or posting on social media or SEO and stuff like that. And those are all components, those are all tools or pieces of marketing and advertising and digital marketing, all those things. But broadly speaking, the business function that is marketing is about how your business or your organization goes about building relationships with your clients and your stakeholders. That's everybody involved with your space or the people that you touch, that you impact. So your vendors, your suppliers, your peers, competitors, all of that. How you position, like it says in there, you're in your space, your ecosystem, and how you position relative to your competitors. Um, and forgive me if my voice goes out. I am a little bit under the weather right now, of course. So I'm going to try to, try to keep my voice intact here a little bit, but bear with me. So I got more people signing in. Okay. Two particular strategies that I like to use that are pretty much the bedrock of my philosophy and how I approach pretty much every one of my clients is with thought leadership and collaboration. Those are my two favorite ones, absolutely, because in my experience, in my opinion, I guess, those are the two absolutely most powerful strategies in marketing that there are. Um, and we'll kind of get into that here a little bit. And if I'm going a little bit too fast, just let me know, drop it in the chat, say, hey, slow it down a little bit, because I do go a little bit quick. But those are the two strategies, the overarching strategies that I like to use with my clients and my organizations that I volunteer with. It is, you can apply it from any kind of company, any size of company, any nonprofit or for profit, it doesn't really matter. And so we'll kind of go forward here and break these down a little bit. So in no particular order here, it doesn't matter where, the component is, but you can see here this footprint, and it's got items that would be considered thought leadership, like webinars, blogs, reports, surveys, case studies, your website. All of those things make up your thought leadership. Okay. And as you can see, that creates that footprint there. And like I said, webinars, they're at the center on this picture. They don't have to be. It's not how it's supposed to be, right? It doesn't center around that. But you get the idea. I think it's about expanding your presence, building that brand awareness. As you can kind of see there in the bottom right, it also accelerates lead generation for you, because all of those components under thought leadership, that is how you introduce your brand to your customer base or to your market, in particular, those who don't know anything about you, right? So, how many times do you find out about a new brand through an ad that you might see, or through an article online, right? Or maybe a report that you find, or a guide, an ebook, something like that, or a survey. This is exactly what I'm talking about. It helps build that brand awareness. It helps accelerate your lead generation instead of just word of mouth, right? And the thing about word of mouth is you don't have control over that at all, right? And that's risky. We love word of mouth, of course, and it's great to have referrals. Referrals are one of the greatest sources of sales, of course. But word of mouth cannot be your only source of lead generation. And it cannot be the only way that you get business because, like I said, you have no control over that at all. And it puts your business in a position that's not strong, it's not defensible. And if you're looking for investors in the future, they absolutely do not want to hear that your entire marketing campaign is driven by word of mouth. It will not work. But kind of moving along here, having that thought leadership builds that proverbial moat that we're always looking for that can defend your position in the ecosystem. Remember, I said marketing is about how you position, right? And you want to build that moat so you can defend yourself from your competitors and such. So when it comes to that, building that moat, think about it. If you own all of the content online on the entire internet about your particular space or your market or the area that you serve, if anyone has a question about what it is you do or about that solution or that industry or that tool or product or whatever, they're going to find you. They're going to come right to you. All the content is yours, right? So that automatically it puts you in a position where no one can compete with you, right? So that's kind of the idea on the extreme level, right? If you have all of the content, you have all the thought leadership, all the books, the websites, the case studies, proving out all of the fun things and reports, you win, pure and simple, right? So moving on to, and that's about thought leadership. And now I'm gonna move to this next slide that talks about collaboration. And it's very, very, very similar intentionally, as you can see, right? Okay, so now your business is at the center, and that's intentional. Okay, your business is at the center of this collaboration as it should be, because now you have hopefully built up friends in your industry, right? You've got your peers, your vendors, suppliers, um, all of those, and they essentially now make up your footprint as well. And you can kind of see that lone competitor out there who's isolated. That's the worst place to be in, and that's where most businesses are, in fact, right? They're isolated. They don't have any connections to to anyone other than themselves, maybe a little bit to their vendors, only because they have to, right? There's not an actual intention of building the relationship there. It's just there because it has to be there, right? So we want to focus in on that and try to build that relationship because it strengthens your position. And as you can kind of see there, the impacts are pretty much identical to thought leadership. I added strengthens your position because you can kind of see that it expands your footprint tremendously. But again, it builds your brand awareness because now multiple entities know about your brand and can feed you referrals and new business, right? It accelerates your lead generation again because now they can refer to you, builds that moat as you can kind of see graphically there, and it builds your visibility plus your credibility, and that equals your profitability. That's a really, really, really key concept that I want you guys to memorize, and it's it's usually in that order: visibility plus credibility. And those are the two components that I see most business owners that are missing. They have very little visibility, or they have no credibility at all, right? And that's where your content comes in again, about leadership, right? Again, if you're putting out all of the content and it's authoritative over time, right? You got to be consistent about it. You build up that visibility and credibility, it will lead to profitability because everyone who's searching for your thing is going to find you if you can spread out enough, right? So that's kind of how those two strategies work. Um, I see we got a couple posts in the chat, but I can't pull them up right now. Hopefully, we'll get to them here toward the end of the presentation. But I'm going to keep it moving here for now. So that covers the two strategies of thought leadership and collaboration. I'm going to kind of move into the one-page marketing plan that I want to talk about. This is a tool that any business can use, again, whether they're nonprofit, for profit, they're a startup, or they're very, very, very well established. It doesn't really matter. I love one pagers because they're short, they're simple, they're easy to remember. They're a lot more, they're easier to send via email and stuff like that. You can share it with your team. And it really just has to have, there's four main components that you can kind of see there. Your strategy, your channels, metrics and KPIs, and objectives or goals. And obviously, when it comes to goals, you always want to use SMART goals, right? You kind of see that acronym there. Hopefully, you're familiar with that. But goals are a little bit different than objectives for most people. Objectives don't always have those SMART components. They're not usually time bound or necessarily measurable all the time. Sometimes they are, but not always. I like to use them separately, and you'll kind of the the one page I'm going to show you doesn't quite separate them, but I'm going to kind of talk a little bit about it, and hopefully it'll make sense for you once I go to that. So let me see if I can move over. Okay. Oh, someone trying to come in again. Yeah. Okay. Are we able to see that? Hopefully, Tyler, can you see the one page?
Not yet. We're able to switch over.
Yeah. Let's see here. One second.
There we go.
See it now?
Yes.
Hopefully, this box will go away. Okay. Okay, so this is an example marketing plan for a landscaping business. I added this extra section on here called foundation, and that's critical for your plan. This has target audience as the first piece, and that's very crucial. That's something that I would say 99.9% of business owners miss or they get it wrong is their target audience. A lot of times when I ask people, excuse me, who they're targeting, they have no idea, or it's so broad. Once they finish explaining it to me after 3 minutes, I have no idea who they're targeting, which is probably how they feel about it as well, right? So that's why it's the first piece on there. Target audience is very, very important. You need to know who you're targeting. Otherwise, your offering and your ability to engage will be dramatically hindered. So that's what that covers there. Your offering has to do with the products or services that you're offering your audience. Simple as that. So a landscaping business might offer basic lawn care, irrigation system design and install, landscape lighting, stuff like that, right? And then your USP, or your unique selling proposition. There's a couple different titles for that, but the idea is the same. This is basically why people should buy from you. Okay. It's what makes you unique. And as you can kind of see here, I filled in only landscape company. That's very key, right? Only landscape company, not one of, only landscape company that offers non-contract, affordable monthly maintenance packages for customers and free basic lawn care for 1 year with purchase and install of an irrigation system. That's pretty awesome. I don't know about you, but I do know a little bit about home ownership from other people, and I know that Tyler's laughing because we were talking about that yesterday. It's very, very expensive. So, I mean, if you can get free lawn care for a year, I think that's a really, really good deal, especially if you're able to also afford getting an irrigation system put in, make sure your lawn stays intact. But all right, so that's the foundation. Target audience, offering, your USP. You want to make sure you nail those down. And then that can help you swing into the rest of this, which is that go to market piece right here. Okay. And this is how you actually, that's what go to market is how do you actually start? How do you execute? How do you bring your offering, right, to your target audience? Okay. That's what go to market means. It's where you actually execute. So we're starting off with strategy here. And again, I've kind of weaved in with a little bit of differentiation here around the thought leadership and collaboration components, where with this particular company, we would build exciting and highly engaging photo, video content with some GoPros or drones or something like that, and geo-target on Instagram and Facebook. And then building referrals and testimonials through engaging several residents and neighborhoods by giving free lawn care. And building community and retention by embedding into the neighborhood activities. So that's your collaboration component right there. Okay, embedding with the neighborhood activities, right? And then you can kind of see at the bottom down here, it says collaborations with neighborhood organizations like fundraisers or the middle schools and event sponsorship. That's kind of how that works. You embed uh, and collaborate with your market, with your audience, right? We're kind of moving back up here with the metrics and KPIs. You want to make sure that you've got these metrics and KPIs figured out. You don't have to have all of them because there's literally dozens and probably hundreds that you could come up with, but just keeping it basic. I mean, if you're a lawn care business or anything else, like a CPA or even a lawyer, it's just a number of customer accounts. Pretty basic, super simple. How many accounts do you have? Right? Your sales figures, that is kind of obvious, right? Your revenue, your profit, your cash flow, EBITDA, whatever. Measuring those things is very important. Irrigation system installs, that would be very, very key. Okay. Especially if irrigation system installs is part of your USP, right? Or your offering. If you're offering that, you want to measure how many times you're using that with your clients, right? And then my favorite KPI is percentage of repeat business. This is the one that gets neglected the most, in my opinion. Repeat business is about a fifth of the cost of new business. Okay. And there is a study out there showing that a mere 5% increase in repeat business is good for anywhere between 20 and 75% net profit. So that's money going into your pocket if you can get repeat business. Super, super, super valuable. It's really about building those relationships. Like I said at the very beginning, that's what marketing is about: is how do you build relationships with your clients? And that's that's everything right there. If you've already got clients, it's really about keeping them, right? Versus everyone is usually concerned with trying to get new clients and that kind of stuff. And it's like building that repeat business is really where it's at. Even for nonprofit, building repeat donors is really, really, really valuable. And they'll find you more donors, or your clients will find you more new clients for you if you treat them right. But there you go. Again, you have to focus on that repeat business, right? So and moving on here briefly, the channels, your customer database is a great channel to market and communicate through. That's just your CRM or however you store your customer information. Website is another channel. Your newsletter is another channel, and social media is obviously another channel. Now, just to clarify, it's a channel, not a platform. LinkedIn is a platform. Okay. Twitter is, or X is a platform. Social media is a channel. Okay. So you want to make sure that you figured out which channels you're going to prioritize, and that depends on your business, of course. On objectives here, obtaining 50% of target market neighborhood within 2 years. That is under objectives. That could be a goal too. It's a SMART goal, right? Because it's specific, it's measurable, 50%, right? It's achievable, it's relevant, and it is time bound with the 2 years on there. As well as this one here is building repeat business to 80%, grew customer database, newsletter, so on and so forth. And that's kind of your thought leadership piece again. All of those components are thought leadership pieces or tools, as well as a collaborative piece, like I mentioned. So that is kind of how you build a one-page marketing plan. As you see, it fits very neatly on one page. It's a lot of information, though, as you can kind of tell. But that is how a one-pager can be built. It's just simply starting with those components, like I said, starting with your audience, your offering, your USP, and then these four components that go into your go-to-market strategy. And that will conclude my piece. And I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Tyler, and he's going to kind of dive into some of the more nitty gritty. If I can, moment, and you should be able to take it from here.
Perfect. I do have one question, James. Because I'm a little extra. Sometimes my strategies become marketing plans and stuff like that become like 60, 50 pages. So how did you figure out like a one pager? Like what triggered that?
Well, I have dealt with professional investors in my experience, like private equity and family offices, investment bankers, and stuff like that. And I've been trained in their ways as a certified capital raiser. And in all of the trainings I've been through, it's about conveying the value and what you're going for really crystal clear, but really fast and short, because these people have about that much time in their day to look at anything you've got. And so it's been drilled into my head to be quick, and get the information across as fast as possible within like a minute. because I mean, you don't really want to spend a whole lot of time reading long posts on Instagram or on LinkedIn or even in your email. If you got a big old block of text, nobody wants to read that. But if they have one page and there's a lot of white space, they're probably going to read it. So it's a little bit tricky, but it's really about just narrowing down those bullet points and kind of addressing the really critical points of the idea or the plan.
Yeah, no, I really like that because, entrepreneurs and small business owners, the people on this call, I mean, you don't have a lot of time. And so having a one pager just to get some thoughts down, and then potentially growing afterwards later on, is just, because it's overwhelming. A lot of things, I mean, you're doing everything as a small business owner and entrepreneur. You're the operations, you're the tech person, you're everything. So I think that was a genius idea, putting it one page. So kudos to that. That's a great idea. So, so everyone, so if you're just starting off, that one pager, I think that's perfect. But if you want to dive into a social media as a channel or email marketing as a channel, which I recommend those two channels, and building those strategies out for small businesses and entrepreneurs on the call, building those out once you're ready. And that's usually what I start with my clients. So I'm going to share a little bit of how to build those. And then, like James said, we're going to send you all this. I'm actually going to send you two guides, a social media marketing guide and then a email marketing guide. And both you'll be able to build your own guide, strategies by yourself. So let me share my screen. Also, let's see. Looks like we might have a question. Oh, thanks. All right. Can you see my screen, James? Okay, perfect. There we go. All right, let's start with a social media strategy. So I like steps. I was talking to James yesterday about this. I like steps. I like to organize things into steps, which is probably a OCD problem. I probably need to get therapy, but it works for my clients. So so here we go. So step one is a social media audit, and most of the time, no one knows what that means. But basically, all it means is just you're going to look at what you've done already. And that's what I do for almost every strategy. It's like, let's go back and just see what worked and what didn't work and put it all down on paper. And then let's grow from there. Because you've probably done some excellent work. But you probably like, I don't know what's working, what's not working, but looking at the analytics, especially if you have put up your business pages, because a lot of you all probably have your social media platforms, all put together, your Instagram, your LinkedIn, because that's probably what you thought, okay, that's how I'm going to grow my business. But what this social media strategy is going to do is kind of organize it for you. So first, we're going to look at your audit, we're going to audit everything, just see what's going on, how many followers you have, just everything about your social media. Then similar to, so you got that one pager. So you do that first, get that one pager. You got your overall goals and objectives for your business, from marketing. But what are your goals, objectives, and key performance indicators for your social media? And that'll be a little bit different. Obviously, all your goals from your social media strategy and email strategy will feed into your overall strategy. So, for instance, a goal for your social media may be growing your followers from, 100 to 200 in 3 months. And when I tell clients, do not do qualitative, do quantitative. So quantitative is numbers oriented because you can't track words. So you don't want to do qualitative. You can't track words. So we're going to do that. So goals are kind of big over, and then objectives are how you're going to meet those goals. And key performance indicators, those are just what you need to look for. Like James was saying, what you need to look for in order to see if you're on track, essentially. And then step three is your target audience. You've already established it in that one sheeter, probably your target audience, but you can dive into a little bit more of what they are doing interactive wise on these platforms. So one, you maybe have two target audiences you're going for. They might not be on Instagram. They might be on LinkedIn. You might want to focus on that. So diving into where they're at, and on which platform is going to be super helpful. So that's kind of where this guide will take you, the one I'm sending to you, and then be able to dive into that a little bit more. Now, your online persona and voice. I know a lot of people kind of skip over this perspective, but really analyzing who you are as a brand. Are you going to be funny? Are you going to be serious? It really just depends on where you want to take it. So, for instance, like Wendy's on their Twitter, or I guess it's X now, which is a horrible name, by the way. I heard that he wanted to name something X, so he went with Twitter. So I thought that was funny. But anyways, so Wendy's did a great job and decided just to be funny the entire time on their X account and everything. So they'll reply funny. You've probably seen them on different channels, just people reposting it because they are hilarious. So they decided to take that route. So that's something you can do if you think you're so funny. I think that's a great idea. But I always see businesses needing some humor because social media is supposed to be fun. It's not always about trying to sell something or anything like that. You got to get a little bit of mixture, and then that's where that content plan comes into play. You kind of want to mix it up because you don't always be selling. You kind of want to be, relating to your demographic that you're targeting. So once you get down with the persona and voice, which you can walk through in the guide, there's strategies and tools. So there's a lot going on social media. You can do paid advertising, you can just do organic, which is basically you just posting. But also in this section, you're going to want to say which of these platforms I want to use. I don't recommend doing more than three, maybe two now. I've been trying to reduce a lot of my clients to just two because it's a lot to navigate multiple platforms. So most of the time, it's like if they're more product oriented, I'm like, okay, Instagram and TikTok and Pinterest are probably going to be your bread and butter at that point. Don't try to post on LinkedIn and also on X and also on these other platforms. It gets crazy. You don't have time. You're a small business owner. You're an entrepreneur. You don't, like I said, you don't have a lot going on. So, I'll get you back off of past. There we go. But yeah, you don't have a lot of time, and so focusing on maybe a couple, but also don't be afraid to try different platforms for a while, 3 to 6 months, and then be like, this didn't really work out for me. I'm gonna call it a day. That's fine. It's all about experimenting. Marketing's always about experimenting. James will know that we don't know everything. We're just as confused as you. We just know a lot more because we've been in it for 8 years. So that's kind of the difference. So I just don't want you to be scared to try something new. And then step 6, timing key dates. This is going to be super helpful with your content. So put in those events that are coming up that are important to you. Those holidays, anything that's, very specific to your brand, your company, your industry, write all those down and you can create content from that. Also, timing will involve your analytical timing as well. So what if you want to do analytics around reports and stuff like that, which I typically recommend doing quarterly, just to see where you're at. And now they're time consuming, so you might want to just pay attention a little bit to your post over the few 3 months and just, say this post did well. Why did it do well? And then break that down. So then just focus on that post and then build off of that essentially. Um, Social media roles and responsibilities. This is when you start getting a little bit more, there's more than one of you running the business because I know I'm an entrepreneur as well. I've had only me and my mother running a business, my father and I running a business. So there's not really that many people, so it's not that confusing. But if you start adding, 5 to 10 employees, your small business, and you start growing, you kind of need to know who's on left and who's on right. So this is just going to say, okay, you handle the content creation, and I'll post. And so just making it simple, essentially. Don't try to over complicate this situation either. It might just be all you. So, but writing it down, and then you have this plan. And when you get to that point where you have people you can hire, you're like, okay, let's change this out. You are this role, etc. So that's important. Again, okay. So step 8, social media policy, not going to be that big of a deal until you have more people. And if they're using social media, they're representing your company. It's just some rules that your employees should follow if they're posting about your company or they're representing in any way. So just something to keep in mind so everyone's kind of on the same page. And I gave an example in the guide, so you can just basically copy paste and then change some wording, essentially. So it's not that big of a deal. Critical response plan, which I'll dive into in a moment, is super important because you just don't know if something happens. I mean, it's actually good to have a critical response plan across the board for your business. If something bad happens, a bad investment, someone doesn't pay their bill in the last 60 days to you, your invoice that you sent, how are you going to handle that? And making scenarios up to uh, you know imaginative scenarios up that allow you to react properly and have go-to messages. So I'll explain that, go dive more into that in a minute in the next slide. And then last step is content planning. So content planning is super important to have. Um, and what I mean by that is planning out 3 months in advance. I know that sounds daunting, but planning it out 1 month, even just 1 month is important because you don't want to be, because I find I have this problem too, because I'm sometimes creating my content the day before I'm about to post because I'm just behind too. So I completely understand what you're going through. But if you can get like even 2 weeks ahead of yourself, you're gonna be like, oh, post, 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 and you're just moving on with your actual, running the business. So getting ahead of it, if you can dive in for a couple hours, if you want to pause your social media for a good couple weeks to just plan a bunch of posts and then get on a consistent posting schedule, that's what I usually recommend too. All right, critical response plan. So a lot of things on social media, you've probably experienced this already, but it gets a little crazy. And people are mean, unfortunately. So, and they're just rude comments. So just having a plan of how you're going to react to it. Because in the moment, if someone's attacking your product or service, it's actually a attack on yourself. I mean, we've all probably been through it in real life too. And you just like someone critiques you and you're just like, you get mad. So in the moment, you're mad. But if you're like, okay, I gotta go to my plan and use this response, and that way you don't even have to think about it. So writing down these scenarios is super important. So in the guide, I kind of help walk people through this. So you're going to list a couple of negative scenarios that may arise. So it may have been just a negative comment about your product. And then you'll be like, how do I, ask yourself, how should I react to this negative response? And write down a response like, I'm so sorry that this happened. Here's, please give me if it's on Instagram, I usually say, get direct message me any of the issues that you're experiencing and we'll get that handled. This is basically customer service on social media, but it's critical response plan at the same time as well. And again, looking at your go-to message for that. That way you can go in here, copy, paste. You don't even have to think about it because it's like, okay, this was a negative comment about this product. You might have to replace a couple things based on the product if you want to get really specific. But other than that, just copy and paste and then move forward in the conversation. So list out a full scenario of what may happen if someone's unhappy with a product, leave bad review or something like that. Inappropriate words used. It's I've had some situations where we just ignore it if they've gone to a level of being, attacking you, inappropriate, stuff like that. It's best just not to engage sometimes because you just get in a heated battle in the comments and it just doesn't look like you need to be the better person in the situation because you're the business owner. And if you're going to say, I'm sorry this happened to you, you can go to your go-to response, but do not continue to do anything in the comment section. Move it off the social media, move it to direct messages, move it to email, move it off social media so it doesn't look like you're arguing with some random person that might not even need your help at the end of the day too. So that's pretty important. A lot of times I will ignore tell clients to just ignore people who are just being rude and cussing in the comment section. But okay, so that was the social media strategy, which you'll get again, you'll get the guide for that in the email. Here's the email strategy guide. And it's 8 steps. It has some of the same components, so I'm not going to dive too much into each one. But I'll dive in a little bit into rules and compliances and methods of execution. So again, so start with setting with step one. You don't really need to do an audit of your email strategy. So I usually don't put these in my strategies because most of the time my clients have not started email marketing. Or they've done it through their Gmails or personal emails. So you can't really track analytics around it. So there's really potentially no point at that. So we just start from ground zero essentially and start with the goals, objectives, and KPIs. So just start there again and make sure they align with that overall strategy from that one page or whatever you have currently. Then again, target audience. Maybe maybe only picking one target audience from your original list because maybe they don't resonate with emails because maybe they more resonate with social media. It doesn't hurt to try to target multiple target audiences in different platforms because in sales, which sales and marketing definitely match up. You got to have like 7 touch points before you actually someone buys your product or service. So another touch point is always going to help. So do those target audiences again. We may have already dived in quite a bit on your target audience on your original paper, so you don't need to go too in depth on this, but just kind of thinking through your target audience from an email perspective. Timing and key dates, same thing. Dates, holidays, events that are important to you, critical response plan. You're going to get weird emails. People are going to yell at you in an email. I don't know why they spent that much energy emailing you back when they could have just ignored or unsubscribed. But, some people have time on their hands, so it's interesting. But yeah, so critical response, James knows this too. It's always funny when you're an email marketer. But yeah, critical response plan, gonna need to have it again. Emails, roles, and responsibilities. Step 5. Again, who's on left, who's on right? It's when you're a small business owner, as you know, it's a little crazy and you're all moving quickly. So it's just gonna be, okay, who's responsible for this? Rules and compliances is a little bit different from email marketing, and it depends on what country you're sending emails to. So the United States has its own rules, and Europe has its own rules. Now, there's some other areas in other countries around the world, so you're definitely gonna have to look them up. But I focus on the most high priority ones that I encounter with my clients is United States and Europe. So I'll dive into a little bit more of that in a minute. Methods of execution, I'll dive a little bit into that as well, but there's 2 major ones is newsletters and then drip campaigns. Drip campaigns are more complicated and require a little bit more investment of time and potentially money. So that is probably not going to be your best solution moving forward. I suggest newsletters, mass emails monthly just to get started. And I'll get more into that in a minute. Content plan. Planning out your emails is also important, especially it won't take too much time, especially if you're only doing it once a month or every 2 weeks. But planning it out a few months in advance, again, just helps you not have to feel rushed or be like, oh, I got to send out an email tomorrow and stuff like that. So that's important. Okay. So for step number 6, rules and compliances, the US has its own mass email rules. They're very simple. It's mostly just making sure people can unsubscribe. They know it's a mass email, who it comes from, essentially who the mass email is coming from. Your address is on there, your business address is on there. And these platforms like MailChimp, HubSpot, these emailing platforms do that for you. But just be aware of what's going on. I've encountered with the European, I had a client who was international, and we encountered issues on the European. So Europe is a little bit different and a little more strict on their email. But you can get away. I'm not gonna say get away with stuff, but follow the compliance. So with the U.S. And there's a little less. Let's say there's a little less rules around the U.S. And it's a little easier to be able to communicate with people you haven't connected with. The easiest way for typically with email marketing when you're growing, it's just your interactions and referrals that you connect with on a normal basis, whether you connected them with on LinkedIn or in person, they handed you your business card. Once someone hands you your business card, go ahead and add them to your mass email list because they have given you permission. They gave the email to you. And so that's kind of how that works. And so that's kind of how you build email lists as well. The other way, uh, so the method of execution. So newsletters, that's kind of how you build your email list. It's very like bootstrap, like you're going to have to like pull friends and family together, anyone you know in the past, stuff like that, that you have email interactions, and anything on your personal email, just start pulling those emails and putting them together um, into one mass email list. I'm going to dive in real quick into drip campaigns, but essentially what they do is um, slowly provide a multi-email campaign. So if you're selling, for instance, a product and you want to do a discount for them, essentially, or there's last minute campaign essentially like for I don't know, Valentine's Day is coming up. Let's just go with that. Valentine's Day is coming up. So you start now and someone so you send the first email essentially 20% off. They click the email but haven't really done anything with it. So then they will start, then that will basically the next drip campaign. So whoever didn't click it, they will fall out of the email sequence. The next campaign email will go to everyone who clicked essentially that email because they obviously were interested potentially in the discount, but it didn't make the action. And so you just kind of go down that lane. So that's one example. I know that probably was a little confusing without a visual, but I'm happy to discuss that with anybody who needs assistance with that. And there's a longer campaigns as well when you're just trying to obtain subscribers. You use Google Ads essentially to drive people to a landing page on your website, and then they subscribe to emails, and then you provide several emails pointing them into a direction of a product that you were originally trying to sell. So way more complicated. I don't recommend that typically to clients when they're first starting or small business owners because it's a lot of pieces and you kind of have to get it organized, and it's sometimes you could probably build your own strategy around it. So I don't recommend that, but that's another way of execution. And oh, another person coming in. Awesome. So yeah, let's see. Oh, the last thing talk about is content planning and email design. These are going to be pretty important and where you place different things. So the subject line is going to be pretty important in your mass email. Put whatever you want them to do at the beginning. So people have like we all know that we don't have a large attention span. So so you're going to put whatever you think is the most important for you and your brand at the top. Everything you can add more to your mass email and your newsletter and stuff like that at the bottom, but you probably have 50% of people are just going to read this little thing. So whatever you call to action or whatever you want to drive them to, put it that at the beginning. So and then design it that way. Visuals, photos, interactive things. Don't make it all text. Don't make it text heavy. Make sure the text is separated too. So what our eyes do, I didn't do well here, but you need to separate text. So into 2 lines each. It can be 2 sentences and then break that up 2 sentences because our eyes don't take in paragraphs well. Even though I'm used to writing academia papers, so I had to switch that when I jumped into marketing because I would just write this whole big paragraph. Because when you get out of college and even high school, they want big paragraphs, and so you're just like, I'm used to writing 8 sentences in a paragraph. So that's a kind of shift because you need small digestible pieces. You need the brain to work less and burn less energy. And if you're helping your potential client burn less energy, they're going to potentially connect with you or do that call to action essentially too. Um, Here's some ideas. So events, holidays, articles, reshares, inspirational, motivational posts, quotes, any brand thought leadership, like James was saying. I think thought leadership is so important. You should be the expert in whatever you're doing. And I don't like the word expert really, but you should be super knowledgeable of what you're doing and share that. I mean, not everyone knows what you've been through, those experiences and stuff like that. And they're always that's kind of how we're connecting now. So I think thought leadership is super important. Problem solving, those pain points that people are experiencing, try to solve their problem. Like how are you helping them? And another thing I read about, building a story brand is that switching from thinking the business, you're the hero, your customers are actually the hero, you're the supporting. So shifting that a little bit, that kind of changed my mind when I read the book. I'll have to send that to you all as well, link to that book. But it was super interesting perspective of shifting like, oh, we're us as business owners aren't the hero. The We're trying to make them the hero in their story because it's your customer's story, not your own, and you want to empower them. So that's kind of what I have so far. Let's see, do we have any questions?
Yeah, we had one in there, and it was for entrepreneurs who don't have much money. Are there free resources for creating newsletters? And then, are there any free resources for AI or any automation for marketing that saves time? Um, I, Tyler, I don't know about you. As far as free resources for creating newsletters, um, I do believe there are a few out there. I have a couple CRMs that I use. This Usually CRMs have those built in, and there's CRMs are like Mailchimp or HubSpot or Constant Contact or whatever, and they do have free options there. Sometimes they have that feature where you can send a newsletter. Some don't. Sometimes they'll gate it with a price point that you have to level up to, right, or you have to buy. Um, Tyler? Do you know of any free resources for newsletters?
So yeah, the problem is you hit limits. So MailChimp does have a free. I have a client who needs email system right now, so I'm in the middle of it, which is funny. So yeah, they have it's for MailChimp, it's up to 500 contacts for free. And they have limit how many you could send emails to per month. Um, if you want to go with that, it's cheaper long term, I think. My client's probably gonna be spending around $35 a month. Um, because we'll probably have closer to 1,000 and
Oh, I think I might have lost you. Tyler, can you hear me? You guys lost me. I'm not sure.
contacts limit. And then once you get past that, it gets very expensive. Um, like thousands of dollars a month. So they kind of bait you with that. And then when you hit that threshold, it just can become super expensive. I don't think a small business really needs a CRM platform like that. It's just too extensive. I mean, it's helpful to manage your clients through the sales flow process on the platform. but the platform itself just becomes super expensive long term. And Salesforce is expensive, like all these major platforms like that, CRM system, um, was it customer relationship management systems? That's what it's called. Yeah. I'm so used to just using the acronym.
Get away with WordPress as well. They're kind of built for newsletters or blogging. So it I cannot remember what the price points are, unfortunately. But I know that you can create free blogs using WordPress, and WordPress is kind of the 800-pound gorilla, right? So you might be able to get away with it there. Um, but generally, these platforms will charge you for that because you're able to mass email, and that's really the value point. So it's really, really hard to find newsletter features for free. As far as free resources for AI, there's a ton. I can't even start naming them all. I try my best, and I'm on Instagram to like screenshot them as people post them all the time.
Yeah, that's me.
Every week. That are free or not free. ChatGPT is wonderful as far as saving time and kind of getting that creativity, getting over that creativity hump. So I would probably look into those. Um, Tyler, do you have anything to add on the AI part?
Yeah, no, ChatGPT, I use that every day. So I think I'm sure there's better platforms, but I've just gotten used to using it. So and what you can do if you've written anything ever, just throw it in there and say, hey, I want a few posts from it. I recycle content all the time because you can change it up and maybe add a little bit more to it, more thoughts to it, and it's still valuable content. And it, people lost your won't remember anything after 10 seconds anyways. So they probably won't know that you posted the same thing twice anyways. Like if you post one thing one day and one same thing the other day, people do it all the time on TikTok. And you just don't know, like, did I see this? I don't know if I saw this. There's just so much content in people's attention span. So I wouldn't worry too much on that. But I don't recommend actually posting the same thing twice. Too close together though.
Point too, I saw another marketer recently posted up on LinkedIn recently, and I thought it was genius. Actually, it's like every every marketing team should have at least one person solely dedicated to repurposing content. I was like, that's wonderful. Like that's gold right there. And so for those of you that don't know, repurposing that is, I guess, a technique in marketing or digital marketing where you basically take a piece of content and you rework it into another piece of content. So, for example, a blog article, that's my favorite to start from. If you have a really high quality blog article, meaning it's 750 words, maybe up to 1,000 words, right? And it's got um, a mixture of long and short and medium tail keywords in it, right? Um, I can repurpose a high quality blog article, one article, probably around 80 times. And that means I can take the article, for example, and turn it into a video. Or I can take a few points from the article, separate those out, and create a carousel with it. Or I can create a list off of it. You know what I'm saying? So, like, you could say 10 top questions for da 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 da. Okay, then you take the top three and you can make another piece out of that, say top three challenges for X. Hopefully that makes sense. That's what repurposing is. And you can get really nuanced and creative with that. Like I said, I could repurpose a piece of content if it's a blog article. I can do that probably 80 times. Not every single time, but about. So repurposing is really, 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 really powerful, especially if you're on limited resources. I would learn how to do that or try to recruit someone that can help you repurpose your content. Because then you have a wealth of it. Like for example, after this, you guys are gonna. I told you guys you're gonna get. I've got a few books that I'm gonna release over the next couple months. You guys are gonna get them early, but they are basically playbooks that are built up of my articles. Because I've got more than 100 articles on my website that they address all of the top 100 questions that any business owner is facing right now. And so I put some of those together under like a common theme. And that's the idea. That's the repurposing part. So I've got a handful of blogs that I repurpose into a relatively small ebook. So that's kind of what repurposing is. So
Yeah.
I,
No, I do that same thing. I actually took one of our blogs for and told ChatGPT make 10 posts from it. So you can do that. I mean, just tell ChatGPT like, hey, I want this to make 10, 15, 20 posts, whatever you want, or 20 post ideas from this content. And yeah, do less work. I'm all about less work.
those are good questions too, guys. What else do we have? I mean, hopefully, what we went through makes sense, and you can kind of understand how these strategies we've gone through, for the most part, if not entirely, you can do them without paying anything. I mean, thought leadership doesn't cost money generally. It's really about putting out the content, the pictures, the videos, and it doesn't have to be super slick and have all these transitions and stuff like that if you don't have the ability to do it or the skills. Just, I mean, like I do videos every week, and I just do them off my phone here in my apartment, and people seem to love them, so it still works, and it doesn't cost you anything except a little bit of time. I see a question: how much you making with those ebooks? um, are you placing paid ads for it? No. So I will be giving away my ebooks. So I give away lots and lots and lots of information and my content. That's part of my strategy. So I am uh, a content producer. So that's kind of, like I said, that's part of my strategy. That's how I do it. Tyler, anything around?
Yeah, no, it's a good strategy. Ebooks, free ebooks and stuff like that, or a template, anything to for lead generation like that. You want to do something for free. You want to give your potential customer something, so they can test out if it's the right fit. And then it's kind of like a free trial, I call it, which you can, if you have stuff like that, free trial stuff, do that. People need to test out your product or service and giving them a chance to like, oh, this is what it is. Because unfortunately, especially in the service industry, if you're in services and you provide services, people can't conceptualize what you're doing sometimes. So putting them actually into products or giving them free trials or like showing them allows them to be like, oh, okay, this is what that is. And so that's, I mean, I've had to do that so much for service industry clients and myself, put things into products so people are like, oh, this is what this is.
For sure. And hopefully too, the the approaches, the strategies I kind of walked you guys through at the beginning about like the thought leadership and collaboration. There again, like collaboration doesn't cost you anything. It's free. It's just a matter of reaching out, and asking somebody, a partner or a peer or um, a vendor, like, hey, let's collaborate. Are you open to that? What can we do? Like, what I mean, you guys have your products, we have ours, and what can we do together and kind of tackle this together? Remove the ego, right, and just try to work together. That's kind of how collaboration works. I'm huge on that, and it works very, very, very well in any kind of space, any kind of industry. It doesn't matter. Um, but like I said, for those, especially actually for those that are starting out with their startup, you really would do well to find as many partners and collaborators as possible to keep you alive. I mean, like they say, it takes a village to raise a child. It's the very same thing with your business. It takes a village, right? So, I mean, if you're not already connected to certain networks in town, if I'm assuming everybody you here is in Dallas, most of them are. I know a couple of you are not even in the U.S., but in your country or your city or wherever, look for groups that you can connect with and engage with and get you supported and that you also can support. That's very key. It's got to be a give and take. You can't just take, that won't work. Collaboration will fall apart if you're only taking. And so if your collaboration doesn't work, you may need to reflect on that because you may be taking too much and not giving back, right? But getting those connections is paramount. I mean, really, I can't stress it enough. Having support will make or break you for sure. Absolutely. So I just want to make that point. Like I said, it doesn't cost you anything except an ask. So, Tyler, anything else that you wanted to address, or if anybody else has any questions around anything at all, whether we covered it or not, I mean, feel free to drop in the chat. We've got plenty of time on the clock still.
Yeah, I saw that Shopify, someone in the chat said Shopify has 1K free emails a month. So that's awesome. I haven't played with that platform yet, and but I know it's good, especially for more product oriented
Mm-hmm.
uh ventures.
Man, I'll tell you what though too. Some of these products that are out there, if you're able to scrounge up the change to buy them, man, they're great. You know, they speed things up, and they know it. That's why they created the product in the first place, right? I mean, some of the the program I use to create ebooks, it's a real pain, honestly, but it does speed up the process quite a bit. Or even like producing content like with the AIs or whatever, or being able to email, like do mass emails and creating that newsletter. Although you have to pay for it, I mean, it can pay for itself. You got to think about it. If you get one client, you're paid, you're good, generally. So I would really consider buying some of those things. But again, I mean, like we said, the premise of this is supposed to be, if you're on limited resources or you have no resources, what can you do to market your business? And this is how you do it. Quite simply, this is how you do it. Creating that content, getting collaborators and support, um, and drilling down into some of the email marketing like Tyler went through. That's huge, 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 huge. I was reading a report this morning actually from a survey of I think 1,000 CMOs. 91% of them are investing more this year in email marketing. 90%. So pretty much all of them. Email marketing is definitely one of the most. It's probably the most powerful platform that there is because it's personalized to start. So among other things.
Yeah.
But um, well, if nobody else has any other questions or anything that we can address, I think we could probably jump off. I mean, we can kind of hang here. Me and Tyler will hang here for a little bit if you like, and we kind of address anything if anyone has any last minute questions. Otherwise, hopefully this was helpful. Hopefully you like the content. Like I said, this is recorded, so we're going to send you that. You're going to get a whole bunch of goodies. Hopefully you saw that in the Eventbrite. I'm going to send you a bunch of stuff. Tyler's going to send you a bunch of stuff. Don't worry, we're not going to like spam you, but you're going to get a whole lot of goodies to
One
help.
email for me.
Yeah, we're gonna send you some tools, some guides, articles, and that kind of stuff, and that way you'll have some things to work off of with your business. And I promise, if you start using them, you will see an impact. You'll see a difference, absolutely. So you guys are very very welcome. I see that in the chat. You're absolutely welcome, and we're here when you need us. So reach out, connect with us on LinkedIn, social media, Instagram, all that. We're on there. Um, so yeah, thank you guys. The recording will be available. We'll send it to everybody who registered for the event. So even if you were in and out of the meeting, you'll still get the full video. So yeah, no worries there. Absolutely, for sure. I'll leave the recorder on just in case. And that way we can catch any last minute things if anyone comes through. Absolutely. Thank you guys.
Absolutely.
Tyler, some of that you were talking about how dealing with people when they get mad or like their feedback and it gets kind of nasty and like on posts or like reviews. Oh my God, I've dealt with that, and I've dealt with I call it crisis management. Man, I have a whole section on my blog about that crisis management, and like that's a thing. When things go bad, it's really important to have at least some kind of idea or plan of how to handle it. Like I've dealt with, there were two major incidents I can remember in my experience that I've dealt with organizations, and like one of them was last year. Um, it was an internal situation too. It's like, yeah, that's serious, and it can derail you really fast if you let it get out of hand. And so like having that plan of like, all right, what do we do now? Like what you don't want to react to it, but like you have your list. Okay, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do this, and then we're good. I think that's really, 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 really important, really valuable, probably overlooked. And I agree with what you said. Like you never want to engage them. Maybe once and say, hey,
Yeah.
look, yeah, we're sorry about that. Let's have a direct communication and see if we can rectify the situation. I have a question here. Do you think a newsletter is worth it for a business? 1,000%. From what I gathered, a lot of businesses just do email promotions if they have sales, for example. Yes. I I do. Tyler, go first on this one.
Yeah, I think it brings back to that what I was probably saying in social media a little bit. Like you don't want to be selling all the time. So I think promotions are going to be important still. But I would think that would be kind of separate from your newsletter potentially. Doesn't mean you don't want to, you can put it at the end, but I would definitely focus on your newsletter on the customer's experience, success stories, anything that's impactful in your life, especially if you're a small business. Like we hit a milestone, anything like that. Just a little more glimpse into your life.
Yeah, just to kind of piggyback off of that, I mean, retention is one of my specialties, so I think newsletters are massively valuable when they're used correctly. And you don't want to use a newsletter to only promote, right? A newsletter should ideally be used to maintain regular conversation with your clients or your customers, but also to talk about, yeah, a little bit about what you do, but you can use a newsletter to talk about everything other than you. That's what you should use a newsletter for. So, talking about other clients that you're highlighting or your stakeholders, for example, your vendors, suppliers, your peers, right? Like I told you, it's about the collaboration, highlighting them, um, and giving credit, giving highlights and shout outs to everybody who supports your business, from client to board members to peers. You can use your newsletter for that, and you can also email people promotions separately. But your newsletter should be used to communicate everything else that's not focused on you, right? Don't want to be selfish with the newsletter. That's a key mindset shift that entrepreneurs need to make. If you can get a newsletter, yeah, you should absolutely have one for sure. Yep,
Problem.
absolutely. Those are really good questions.
Yeah, they
Like, there's
no.
things like that, but like, yeah, I mean, ask them if you have the simplest questions. Ask it, please, because I mean, this is the time, right?
Yeah, we should speak of AI, that's a good question. We should have just a session on that. Man, I just want to like figure out what's going on. You know what I mean? Like it could be like an exploratory session, but I just it's so crazy because like you, I've been taking screenshot of things, but I just haven't had time to like dive into AI and marketing. I tried to like meet with some people who are in AI, but they're just so busy too.
No, seriously. And there's so many new AIs every week. Like I said, it's unbelievable how fast that sector is growing and those tools. I mean, it's growing at light speed. It really is. I mean, that's why I'm like, I don't even want to look because I'll just look at the end of the year and see what was great from the year, and then I'll try and use that, and hopefully I won't be obsolete by the next year.
I don't know. I think it's one of those things you still have to tell it what to do. And you still have to, I mean, you could say, oh, I want a strategy, but when I look at the strategy, I'm like, I don't know if there's a lot of human in this. You know what I mean? I mean, it's intelligent, but I don't know if there's a bunch of human in this.
Yeah, I've gotten a few messages on LinkedIn that I can tell are AIs as well, just because of how they respond. I'm like, doesn't have the human touch, one, but two, I wouldn't use an AI to respond too many times on a direct message. Maybe once or twice to get the conversation started, but I would pick that conversation up personally after one or two. Don't have a whole convo with an AI. That's not good. That's not good.
Yeah, it's like I'm talking to nothing.
Yeah, right, right.
I'm like, what's the point of this? Talking to the air. That's what I'm doing.
Um, I'll email this as well, but just while it came to mind, I wanted to drop this on you guys too. By participating today, you get a free ticket to my Dallas Business Symposium. That'll be in June. I will not drop the date yet because I'm still confirming some things, but it will be in June here in Dallas. Uh, there's that. So if you are a follower of mine on LinkedIn or Instagram or a subscriber on my website, you'll see that. And again, you don't have to memorize that. This is recorded. I'm going to email you about it. So don't worry. But yeah, that is there. So for those of you that are in person, you get to kind of connect. So, and hear some interesting panel discussions and stuff like that from marketers like myself, but also with like Tyler and some others that I'm trying to wrangle up. So it'll be fun stuff for sure. I see there's still a lot of you guys on here. I mean, if you guys have any questions, I mean, we have still a few minutes if you guys want to shoot any questions, any burning questions that you've had, like how do you guys handle this? What do you do about that? I
Yeah,
mean,
because yeah, James and I can talk all day about random things.
I'm glad like these platforms exist. Like I can just talk all about it, you know.
Yeah, just like, oh my God. But yeah, I don't think AI is going to be pushing us out anytime soon. I think content writers may be in a situation, but you kind of have to adapt. I mean, everyone's like, "Why are you using AI to write your content?" I'm like, adapt or die. If
Yeah,
if someone comes up to you and wants to hire you and it says, "Oh, can you do this through AI?" and they're Gen Z or somebody like that hiring you, and you're like, "Oh, I don't do AI." I'm like, good luck in that client.
I mean, about AI is it really? It's not. I don't see it anyway as like cheating. It's faster. I mean, if I were to produce an article, let's say, over a marketing concept or a few concepts, I know the content. Otherwise, I'm not posting it. But I know the content, so when it spits it out, I know if it's correct or not, or if it's real or not, or whatever. And it's like, it's just a lot faster on the creativity side. Like I don't have to write it in, you know, grammatical accuracy and stuff like that. I don't have to spell check things and make sure it's as, you know, it's grammatically right or whatever. um you know, it just speeds things up. So a question here: I've heard it's good to have a mentor. Do you agree, and if so, how do you find one? Very good question. Um
It's good to have one. The Deck Network has a mentorship program, so I'm putting in the link to the mentorship program. You apply for it, and they'll match you with someone in your industry or someone just knowledgeable. You'll basically in your application tell them what you need. If not, then the mentorship coordinator will go through a essentially interview with you to figure out what you might need to. But here's the link to that. You have to scroll down just a bit. I just resigned from that company, so that's the reason why I understand know what the Deck Network does. But yeah, we had a fantastic. They still have a fantastic program with some really cool mentors in it. So I definitely recommend them. Um, if you're in Dallas, you can definitely meet them in Dallas. But if you're virtual, I think there's virtual as well. I have to
there
reach
is.
out. But
I'm one of the mentors as well, so yeah, you can do the virtual part. Um, I mean, mentors can be anybody, honestly. I mean, I consider even authors that I read as mentors because I mean, I've got a whole library right here to my right of books. They're all business, very boring, but you know, I feel like I read all my stuff too. Like those are my mentors, you know. But then, real in life, uh, in person mentors as well. I have a couple of them, or I have had a couple of them. I mean, it could really be anybody. You just ask them, hey, man, you know, would you give me some guidance on this, you know, for a little while and kind of help me figure out some things. I mean, it doesn't even need to be like a lifelong mentorship either. It can be short. It can be a couple months. I've done that in the past where I had a mentor that was sort of giving me challenges and tasks for about 3 or 4 months, you know, and it worked out pretty well, you know. It's really similar to having a coach, and you don't necessarily need a coach forever. Sometimes you need different coaches too. Um, right, but yeah, I mean, yeah, if you can find a mentor, yes, absolutely, find someone who's doing the thing you want to do and figure out how they got there, for
yeah,
sure.
yeah. To that point, I mean, you kind of want to find a mentor that's I think when you're first starting, if you just started your business, maybe someone who's been in business 3 to 5 years. And then when you hit that 3 to 5 years, then shift to someone who's a little bit higher. But you also might want to have someone who just started too, because they have new ideas too. So um, getting someone younger than you and getting someone older is never a bad thing. Younger people are going to help you keep up. Like, what's this trend?
I've heard a great approach to that and like staying basically in shape as a business person or whatever. um, you have three people in your life. You have somebody who's a mentor to you, somebody you mentor, right? So you're teaching them, and the third person is someone you compete against, like a rival, basically, like a peer.
Oh yeah.
Uh, those three people in your life, if they kind of work in a coordinated fashion at all, it's like, that'll definitely get you leveled up. So I like that approach. I've never done it. I've never employed it. That's pretty tough to keep track of, obviously. But if you can figure out a way to work that into your lifestyle, oh yeah, I would definitely explore that for sure. Um, it is 12:19, almost 12:20, I guess. If anybody has any other questions, please feel free to drop them or just shoot us an email. You should have that. I think we'll go ahead and close it down for now. I think hopefully we've answered all your questions. Hopefully this is really helpful and informative. But we want to thank you guys again. Like I said, you're going to get a lot of follow up from us as far as tools and fun stuff that'll help you with this stuff and help you with the business. So, any kind of questions that you have, just connect with us, direct message, email, however you want to do, and we'll get back to you for sure. So,
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, y'all.
right. I'm going to go ahead and close this down, and we will see you at the next event.